sheet on the Battle Buddies page. If you go to the top of the page and go all the way to the right, there's a Files tab, and you grab click on that, and you'll find that everything that I'm showing you tonight is built off that sheet. So, excuse me. Virtual interviews. Here's a few of the types. Obviously, video. There's artificial intelligence, software, text messages, and chat bots and telephones. Okay, I want to show you a couple things and just kind of focus in on the AI. There's a new thing called Maya, which is short for My Assistant, and I want to just drag this screen into view if I can. This is Maya's company's homepage, and I just want you to kind of dial into some of the stats on why this is becoming. If their claims are true, I want you to understand why this is becoming the thing. And if you've ever interfaced with a chat bot and didn't know it, there's probably something like this. So the recruiters are loving it because it takes a lot off their plate. So you need fewer of them in the office to do that. So here's a couple of stats here. It's sourcing and reactivation. I'm not even sure what that is. Career site engagement, screening and shortlisting. I'm going to just blow by that. It's really not a lot there. But here's what really caught my eye when I was checking this out with some of these stats. A 93% application complete rate with their help. So maybe if you're not getting everything on the application right, Maya might reach out to you if you're a promising candidate and say, hey, you missed a couple spots on the app, and you get all fired up and you'll be happy to do that. A 2.5 time increase in funnel conversion. That means that people who get moved through the process go quicker because of this Maya thing. So stats like that, again, make this more important. We all used to think way back in the day when LinkedIn first came on the scene that was just going to be another sophisticated Facebook, but we find that it's almost becoming as important as the resume. So don't take this Maya stuff too lightly. 79% reduction in time to interview. They're going to jump on that. That pays for itself. 144% increase in recruiter productivity. I guess that would vary, but the point is this is a pretty significant increase in productivity that can be gained by using this artificial intelligence. So here's just a screenshot of an example of how natural language and understanding this is. So the second bubble would be the Maya dialogue. I don't know if you can you see that? Great. I've got you down as a software engineer at Field Tech working with Java and C++. Are there other skills you'd like me to add? I mean, that's pretty natural language. I don't know really fully what dynamic dialogue management is, but it sounds pretty cool. Channel and language neutral. So it speaks in plain English and makes you think that you're actually communicating with a human. That's the whole deal there. So that will elicit more honest and sincere responses from you if you feel you're dealing with an actual person. You're not going to put that on hold if that's the case there. So we've got that. So let's just explore some of the do's and don'ts for video interviews, and they come in these types: Zoom, Skype, GoToMeeting, Google Meet, Microsoft Teams. You've probably heard of that. We did talk about the intelligence software, so I got a little bit out of sequence with that because I was so excited about it. Maya, which stands for My Assistant. It's primarily in the text world and chatbots. So if you're online, you'd see that. So let me just delve a little bit into the phone interview. Just 1 second to catch up. So I'm going to skip over the phone stuff. It's common sense, but I'll cover those kind of disciplines as we go through the prep here. So answer the phone with confidence and answer your questions with confidence. That goes obviously for any type of interview situation. You want to be the best you can be. If you hesitate, if you hedge, if you're umming and on, if you're sweaty, if you're nervous, that'll come through. on the phone. Before you even get to that stage, it might be a good idea to do a test run. You know the interview's coming. Test out. You call up a friend and just make sure that you're on your end, everything's working right with your technology. Make sure your Wi-Fi connection's good, so you don't freak out or get caught off guard by the sound of your voice reflecting back at you. You might want to practice hearing your own voice through the speaker, because it definitely sounds different, as we all know. Smile, okay? This may seem weird, but while you're on the phone, and whether they can see you or not, it helps to smile, because it really it helps. It's a mental thing. It helps you sound more engaged. I know that back in the old days when they had telephone operators, and AT&T was the only phone company, they trained their operators to be smiling the whole time that they were on shift. So there's definitely something to that. It's not anything new. It's been proven.
Hey, Pete.
Yeah.
So getting back to this part of the practice, you know, and the answering with confidence, I want to add a couple things in on there. So guys, at least Army guys, I would assume Marine guys, OJ, I don't know, when you were SF person, you guys would go to the range and qualify, right? Probably a couple times a year. You didn't go straight out to the range to qualify without warming up, right? Or at least going through a test run. So, you know, if this is a job that you're going to be doing for the next 3 to 5 years, maybe 10, if you're real fortunate and it's a great company, you know, you need to be practicing these things on the regular. At least that's my opinion. And so when it comes to one of the things, when Pete talks about the confidence, you know, the nervous energy comes across, it screams. You make your living on the phone, right? Mm-hmm. And if you're a little shaky when you first get started in sales, talking to people, there's no sense in even picking up the phone and give them a call. So, you know, the power that it takes to work well over the phone is a unique skill that really needs to be practiced a lot. At least that I believe so. And another thing too, I didn't see it on the slide earlier, Pete, but if you have the ability when you're doing a phone interview, do not sit down and do it. Be standing up. Your energy's completely different. And those things like he's getting in right now, the smile and everything else, critical. And there's enough phone apps now where you can listen to yourself or you can record yourself on the phone while you're talking to your buddies and play that back. Because you're going to be amazed how many times you're like, all those filler things. All right. That's
the other thing I would add too, Chuck, is that, and I know I'm guilty of this at times too, when you have that nervous energy or just, you know, excitement in general, maybe it's a position you really want, you tend to over excite and speak very quickly. So mentally you need to slow yourself down and almost to the point where to yourself, you think like you sound like you're talking very slow. And I guarantee you'll be at the right pace, the right tone, the right intonation for getting that confidence across rather than the nervousness or the anxiousness.
And silence is not such a bad thing. You don't always have to fill that time by speaking, because sometimes that interviewer could be writing things down. So silence is sometimes golden.
Amen to that.
And so, soapbox on the silence thing. Thanks, OJ. One of the things too, guys, is one of the best speaking presidents that we've ever had is Mr. Obama. And that guy would take pauses all the time. So if the leader of this country could sit there and do a speech and take a pause and the world be fine with that, I think when you're interviewing for your product manager position or your call center thing or whatever you are doing, that you'll be just fine taking a pause to gather your thoughts and put together a great response.
However, I will caution that do not pause before every answer on a virtual interview to Google the proper answer for the question.
A little bit more to say about the pauses. So if you want to keep rolling forward, then not to be rude or anything. Sorry, guys.
No, perfect.
No, cool, man. But again, these tips work for the phone, but also they are equally applicable on the video screen. So there's some video only kind of things coming up as well. Obviously, video to record yourself to see how your energy comes across. Okay, so if you do a practice run, as awkward as it may feel, it's time well spent. I remember one time I had to do a video thing. It wasn't even with another person. If anybody's ever applied at United Health, you know, now they're really big into this. So it throws you questions and you have to answer the questions on camera. And I practiced it a few times, awkward, slightly less awkward, and it got to be a little more comfortable. It never was ever like I was a news anchor or anything. And I never felt like I really enjoyed that experience. But when I finally scored the interview, they said, wow, you really smoked the video thing. And as an older applicant, I had to really make sure that everything I did was beyond reproach. So it definitely helps to video record yourself and just see, and that way you'll hear your voice and see what you're doing. You'll pick up on some of the disciplines you need to catch on to, like looking into the camera. Also, keep a glass of water handy. It's not unheard of or awkward while you're talking to take a sip of water, as long as you don't linger on it. So keep that handy. It's better to have your voice clear and your mouth moist while you're doing this thing. Because it really, when you consider the stakes, this could be, you know, the job that helps you buy that truck or maintain your lifestyle or feed your family, all that stuff. So just remember what's at stake. You're not being put through the ringer for a silly reason. Be able to see a clock that's not on your smartphone. I'm talking about a clock. Usually at the bottom of your screen, there's a clock, so that's probably covered with that. So here's where we're talking about the pause. So when you do pause to think, offer cues so that it doesn't become awkward. And they could be in the form of just saying, hey, could you give me a second? Let me think about that. And then go ahead and take that time to think about it. That makes sense? Again, look at the camera, not the screen. I know some of the newer laptops like mine have decided to put the camera at the bottom of the screen, and I never end up looking at it. It's just too easy to track up. Now, obviously, I'm not looking at the screen because my presentation is on a different screen, so I need to look at two other screens while I do this, but it really helps to practice looking at the camera and using that mental discipline to ignore what's in your peripheral when you do that. Any comments? Good. More prep. Don't slouch, yawn, or fidget. That kind of goes without saying. It's pretty self-explanatory. You need to appear engaged and interested at all times. Understandable that you're going to have nervous habits, but that's where the practice part comes in to help you eliminate that. You can replace obvious nervous habits with something else if you practice. That makes sense? Good. Back to my story with United Health and that interview, video interview thing that I had to do. I set the stage just like this slide is suggesting. I set the stage behind me. I realized at some point I had command to do that. So I sat there in a pair of shorts, but with a shirt and tie and a jacket on. And behind me was a nice oak wooden bookshelf. I put my plaque up. It was for a veteran-related job, so I put my plaque up about service in Iraq and all that. So I really took command of the situation. And you do have the opportunity to do that by setting stuff behind you. That's just going to help perpetuate a good image. Lighting is a factor. You know, right now you see the glow above my head. That's something that I would, if I had a chance to deal with, I would eliminate glow like that. If I'm doing an interview that matters, I'm going to I'll probably find a new spot in the house that would include that background. Check your on-screen appearance. What's your complexion like? Is the lighting making you artificially red or something? Definitely do that, because lighting has a big play on that. And the quality of your camera. Maybe it's time to get something external. Get a Logitech camera or something. If you have kids or a pet, make sure that they're properly restrained and put in the closet or whatever. So you don't want that background noise or anything to distract you, and anything to distract the person interviewing you and giving that impression like, oh, yeah, you really prepared for this, that kind of thing. I could just see a kid running up, "Mommy, I need a drink," right in the middle of an interview, man. That would just it's a new thing, but it would really blow things. Dress professionally, obviously, goes without saying. You want to dress to the level of the role you're applying for. So if you're going to be the company's next over-the-road trucker, you probably put on a polo shirt and be fine. If you're going to be their accountant, comptroller, or something, you obviously want to step it up. But just to match, don't overdress, but just match that level that you're going for.
Pete, can I say something on that real quick?
Yeah.
Just because with today's, everybody's working from home. Even if when you go to the virtual interview and you see the people interviewing you in t-shirts, very casual, still dress professionally, because you're not a member of that company yet. You still want to put your best foot forward. So you don't want to just limit yourself to, oh, everybody's working from home, I can tone it down. No, you're absolutely spot on. You should dress for the level of position that you're trying for.
Yep. Very good. Be yourself. You can't really fool a person. And you're going to be that person that you are anyway, eventually. So why not just skip over any fake false personas and just be the person that you are, the professional person that you are. Most of us have had jobs already, so we know how to get a job. We know how to sell, at least ourselves. So definitely be yourself. Have your story and your pitch ready. Focusing on the challenges and stuff that you faced, actions that you took, and the results that you attained. This is exactly what we do when we build a resume. We state the challenge, we state how we overcame that challenge or addressed the challenge, and then we push what the results are. You want to have that stuff ready as well.
And to that note, Pete, I would say know your resume inside and out, because anything on that is fair game for an interview to ask you.
Absolutely, especially the higher level things, because they're really going to focus on the things that you did in the last couple of positions. Get ready to send a thank you note to that recruiter or employer and anybody else who was on the panel. It doesn't hurt to have a notebook to your side where you ask, or as people are being introduced, you jot their names down and really work hard to make sure that you can find a way to get them a note, at the minimum an email, but try to get them a handwritten note. That's always a good thing, because that distinguishes you from all the other candidates, because you know what? Nobody does it. The fact that nobody does it does not excuse you from you not doing it, but it's going to help you set yourself apart from those that don't. I heard a story, this is in my resume writing association, of a person who really blew their interview. And he calls the resume writer back, wasn't me, calls the resume writer back and says, I really blew the interview, so I don't think I want to purchase this thank you note template. And she said, well, why not? Go ahead and, go for it. It doesn't matter. You're still going to distinguish yourself. And well, long story short, the person did, and then got the job. And later on, probably a few months later, circled back to the resume writer and said, yeah, I did get that job. And they told me that I wasn't even being considered until they got that thank you note. And then they had a second look at my resume and decided to reach out again and offer it. So it can be quite an important thing for you to do. Okay, so I'm going to end it there with that section. These are some of the virtual interview types. Obviously, virtual versus some of the things that we're hitting on, I guess, virtual versus face-to-face. So there's a number of differences that occur or that exist between a virtual and a face-to-face. You could not be wearing socks and they're not going to know that in a virtual. But there's an inability to hide even minor shifts in your tone and your body language, whether you're face-to-face or virtual. Facial expressions, I think there's a tendency to for people to drop their guard and roll their eyes or do something, because they're in their comfortable environment. They're in their space. You're in your desk. It's your home. And it just becomes one less degree of formality, and you really want to be on guard. So make sure you're always looking at the camera. Let's see. Anybody got anything to add to that?
I would say just you have to approach a virtual interview just like you would a face-to-face interview. It carries the same weight, and you can, all the body language cues can be read just as easily from in front of a camera than it can be face-to-face.
One thing I can say virtual interviews is it seems like the time goes a hell of a lot faster. I don't know what you think, James, but it seems like you cover more ground over the same amount of time. Half hour seems like an hour.
I would say so. I think that, yeah, I would agree with that. It does. Again, I think it has to do with the fact that there's less distractions when you're virtual. You're in front, you're in front of a screen. So there's less you're less prone to distraction, so you can cover more. But again, there's no lesser prep that you do for a virtual interview than you would do for a face-to-face.
Here's one. What about the icebreaker? Pete, I'm sorry, I don't remember if that was on a slide or not when it comes to interviews.
Well, it's sort of coming up, but you don't know that. But let's say some of the challenges that virtual interviews bring that are missing are when you go in to meet somebody, a lot of tension that's been building up on both sides of the table go away as soon as you shake hands. Well, that's gone. So you can't shake hands. You've got to figure out a way to make yourself relax. Deep breathing exercises work. You can do those and not necessarily be seen, or they look natural, but definitely think about some of those challenges. Icebreaker, chances are they're gonna break the ice. They're gonna attempt to break the ice. The reality about interviewing is if you've made it that far to where you're doing like the employment interview, not the screening interview, they want you to fit. They don't want to keep interviewing people. They don't like it. You like it less probably, but they don't really enjoy this process either, as much as they could be doing other things. And they're like everybody else. We're all multitasked. People that do the interviewing have other work to do, so they want to get back to it. And if you can score on an interview that they make it an enjoyable experience, then they're likely to come back to you because it's like you outperformed the other people that didn't interview so well. In addition to your job experience, you're at this stage, you're being tested on something that you probably haven't been trained. And that is this whole thing called the interview. So you need to learn how to interact. You need to learn how to communicate, be at ease, engage, and definitely provide the information that they're looking for so that they can understand you're the one that they want to hire.
Well, exactly. And I would say, so I've interviewed and hired across multiple levels of positions. And I would say that the number one, if you've made it as a candidate, if you've made it to the interview, the number one question I am looking to answer when I interview you is, one, can you really do the job that needs to be done? And two, do I want you to do the job with me? So it's that likability factor, or that, like you mentioned it, that fit. Mm-hmm. But that's a two-way street. So as a candidate, you need to be looking at it through the same lens. Is, can I do this job? If you made it to the interview, I'm going to assume the answer to that question is yes. And secondly, do I want to do this job with you? Is this the company that I do I actually want to fit in here? And if you can, that's what your number one goal through the interview process should be as a candidate as well. Because you got what people tend to forget when you're interviewing, especially with the shift in the power dynamic between you may be just looking for a job, but in reality, you're interviewing the company as much as the company is interviewing you. And I think as candidates, we tend to forget that.
Right, and we could go all night on some of the strategies and the things and questions you need to ask, but we're really not we don't want to overload on
Yep.
information and stuff. But yeah, you make a great point. It's your future too. So I would assume if you've gotten that far, there's a really good chance you want to be there. But they could reveal some things that just like don't work for you.
The goal should be to make this as easy for the interviewing person as possible, because they want to be done with this 10 times more than you want to be hired if it's a good job. Because I mean, they're basically taking a funnel of 250 people down to one person that they're going to select. And that's a lot of effort to find hopefully the right person that they don't have to fire.
Exactly. So the last thing I just want to touch on are additional preparation resources. There's that document tips on our site. There's other documents in that file bank, and you have Battle Buddies as a resource. So reach out to us. Reach out to the whole forum. There was somebody today who said, "Hey, I'm new. I've been kind of lurking, and here's my problem." 90 some people jumped in to offer advice. This is a great place to be. So. That's my show. I'm going to stop sharing the screen.
That's a good place to end that, Pete, because you know the page has lost a little bit of that compared to what it was as far as like person per capita, as far as people throwing out their willingness to do mock interviews, phone interviews, Zoom interviews, any of that stuff. And what's been crazy is, I mean, I remember about a year ago, we'd have 5 people jump in to help the same person and give a whole bunch of different perspectives. And the feedback that we would get is that was the most eye-opening process that these people have ever been through. And they totally crushed their interviews. And I mean, I don't want to jinx anybody out there, but the hiring rate was well in the high 90s for people that went through this process, this prep process.
And if you're looking good every step of the way, whatever you do prior in the previous step is going to help you on the next step. For example, if your resume is up to speed and it looks better, reads better, it presents your value better than anybody else, they're going to be more favorably receptive to you when you hit the interview stage. So like I said, everything you do, if you've networked your way, now you know some of the people there on at least a slight level, you're only greasing your own skids. Any questions come out from the group?
No, for a group full of veterans, they've been mighty quiet this evening.
Compliant people, we love it. No,
yeah, which is kind of scary. James, what's some best practices that you found over the years with, from both sides of the desk that's helped?
I'll say number one, Pete kind of touched on this. Do your research. Know why you want to work for that company. And it can't just be because I need a job. You need to be able to articulate not only why you want to work for that company, but also why you're the best candidate for that position. What skills do you bring? What experience do you bring? What value are you going to create? On the other side is don't be on the candidate side. Don't be afraid to treat the interview as a conversation. It doesn't need to be just somebody asking you questions off of a checklist and you answering to those questions. Try to make it as natural as possible, because that'll help you stand out. Once you get, obviously nobody's comfortable in an interview. And I guarantee, you guys have said this too. The person on the other side interviewing you, typically that's not their main job. So they're just as nervous and they're just as uncomfortable as you are. But if you can strike a balance and actually treat it as a conversation, it puts them at ease, and they're going to remember that.
Very good. And if you're the funny type of guy that naturally makes jokes during a conversation, kind of promise yourself or make yourself you're not going to do that until the end of the interview. Keep it professional.
And I would say if you are a humorous type, watch the type of humor that you use, because you never know the person that's on the other side how they're going to take it.
Don't be funny here.
Don't be funny. You
Don't be
might
veteran
get away.
funny, especially.
Don't be veteran funny.
Yeah.
I will say that. Don't be veteran funny. But now a little self-deprecating humor is never a bad thing, because it does show humility. You know, I would say learn a good answer that fits you for the most common interview questions. You know, you can Google the top 5 interview questions. You know, that's probably going to be, what do you consider your strengths? What do you consider your weaknesses? Tell me about a failure and how you handled it. Tell me about what is your accomplishment that you're most proud of. Those sort of things, and have kind of a guided answer to answer those questions. And then if they do throw you a curveball question, you know, feel free to take a few seconds to collect your thoughts about it.
Write your
And then,
stuff down, guys. Write down those questions that James is talking about. I mean, you know, let's say that you see your dream job online. You apply, you find some people you network in, you have a favorable conversation with recruiter, you like the person that you're working for, and all of a sudden you show up day one and it's like, wow, what'd I get myself into? You know, there was a lot of steps along the way where you could have saved yourself a big headache, and who knows what other 5 things you might have had in the funnel for yourself that you passed on that would be, you know, probably better suited for yourself. So just, I tell you what, probably it was about 3-4 years after I got out of the Army, I learned a lesson a hard way. If they want to hire you on the spot, run. I mean, if you're 15 minutes into the interview and they're doing this or across your wrist to see if you got a pulse, and you're not drooling the whole day, you know, be careful what you're getting yourself into. Another one to be careful of, at least I've seen over the years, is certain types of companies will do these big monster panel interviews. It seems like the financial services industry is notorious for that. So I remember walking into one, there was about 40 guys around my age that were all kind of hungry looking and dressed in really bad ties. And they came in like boiler room and kind of had one of those speeches. So, you know, if you,
I would say, yeah, I would say on the panel interview, that's a good point. Is, you know, it's tough because depending on the type of position, like I know at my company, if we're going to bring on a new person, they're going to be interviewed by everybody on our team. That being said, we're not doing a panel interview. You're going to have separate interviews with each function of the team that you're going to interact with, because we are a very high performing team. We want to make sure that you're going to fit. So look at how the interview is structured. You know, do they care about how you're going to impact not just the person you're working for, but the other departments as well? Can give you some clues about how the company itself is run.
yeah. Another thing too that I've seen come up is people have these panel interviews with 5 interviewers or whatever, kind of like promotion board where Sergeant Major's ready to jump down your throat. You might not like the NCO that drug you in there, right? So he's going to take out the pain on you. So just, you know, if something doesn't feel right in the interview, walk on, move off, go away. Just cut bait.
There is nothing wrong with ending an interview early.
Yeah.
If you don't feel the opportunity is right for you, whatever it is, don't ignore the red flags just because you choose to ignore them.
Yeah, that's a really good point. You guys hear me on this. The job market is so vast, it's so broad, it's so deep. There's jobs out there you would not even imagine some of the things they pay people to do. So let's say you're in a situation where you're unemployed, and along comes what you think, oh, this is like a dream job. Boom. Well, if by random circumstance you happen to be unemployed and this quote unquote dream job came along at that time, don't get hung up on fate and karma and all that. There will be another one. Okay. Like I said, the job market is pretty vast. I mean, there's some major seismic shifts lately with regard to how the workforce is structured. Talking like contractor work and all that, but those jobs pay too. So yeah, there's always, like I said, it's vast. And that thing, get out of it now if it's not your thing. They need to have that happen more often, quite honestly.
So I can say this too personally, jobs that I haven't been selected for on the interview, it's happened a couple times. That worked out to my benefit.
Mm-hmm.
James, you ever have that? I mean, you did the sales machine thing for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've always said that, if I'm not selected for it, then something else is going to come. I don't get hung up on it. I will. So before this last position, I was laid off, and I actually interviewed for a Scrum Master position at a technology company here in Minneapolis, and I went through a half-day rigorous interview selection. And ultimately, I wasn't selected because I didn't have enough practical experience, which was great. But what I really enjoyed about that one is it gave me time to interview with different departments and craft my story to different types of people and interviewers. But the recruiter that I worked with from the company actually took the time to follow up with me even after the I didn't get selected, to give me that feedback and tell me why I wasn't selected. So there are companies out there and that that realize it's a two-way street. So don't get hung up on this is the only opportunity out there.
And I like that too. So you guys, if you've been watching the last couple of weeks, Kevin, who's been on here, he sent me a link to a thing that they're looking at where he works. Instead of getting that, hey, thanks, sucker, but not, you were talented but not talented enough, or whatever that, stale HR resume no-go response thing is. So you're probably going to see in the market coming out these tools that give you some feedback on, hey, you were missing, A, B, C, D, or your strength, like a star rating of, you were a 3, we needed a 5 in these 4 things, to give you that feedback so that your user experience is better. So, just because some, one knucklehead says no to you at, whatever big company X is, and that was your dream company to work for, the whole time. And vets are always like, they want to work for defense contractor. That's just the default thing, right? Comfortable with that.
Mm-hmm.
That's one person in a 5,000, 10,000, 100,000 employee company. So, the rest of the company, there's going to be plenty of other doors over there. And if you made a good enough, impression on people for someone to submit you to the hiring manager, you must have done something right. So, don't be afraid to go back and fish in that fishing hole just a little bit. Don't get your treble hook hooked on a log at the bottom.
And I would also say when you're ending the interview, if the company's passed muster, you've decided, yeah, I could see myself doing this. Team dynamics are what I want. Company dynamics are what I want. Don't be afraid to ask the interview where you stand. Chances are they'll give you a stock answer about we've got other candidates to review, or don't think that you can't ask for feedback during the interview as well. There's nothing that says you can't, and sometimes that's enough to make an impression, to say maybe you weren't right for this position, but hey, this other team needs what you have to offer.
And always ask for next steps. Always, always, always. That should be your last. You should walk out the door. I mean, maybe they'll tell you no on the spot. Highly doubt it, but you get the canned James response of, hey, you did great, but we got 7 other people behind you, or whatever it happens to be. But you should know if you're going to hear back in the next day or the next 5 months. You should know that walking out the door. And if they're sitting there telling you about the benefits and the HR steps that are required and all that, you can usually take that as a pretty good sign you're moving forward in the process.
Yeah.
Usually.
So I actually have a question for you guys that I wouldn't mind your opinion on, and I think it's a good point to bring up. What's your guys' opinion on discussing salary in the interview?
No.
Yeah, that comes up after the offer.
Perfect. That's where I'm at too. Yeah, that's where the negotiation comes in. Don't talk salary the first interview.
I mean, my kid works for.
Then just give a range.
Yeah, my kid works for the Gap. That's different,
Yeah, that's a little bit different. But we're talking about a career position. If we're talking a career position, don't enter the interview with intention of discussing salary
Or other benefits.
or other benefits, because
Yeah.
that will be that's actually a detrimental impression on your interviewer.
How much time off? None of that. Yeah.
And I'll say the selfish reason for never bringing that up in the first interview is because all of that is negotiable.
Yep.
Yeah, if they like you, they'll write the check.
Mm-hmm. Or give you more time off.
Yep, exactly. That's never happened to me. Vet humor.
Really?
Vet humor.
Yeah.
Just kidding. I max them out, James, every time.
You messed up, man. You went for the funny.
Yeah. See, you
can
failed.
Get around, guys. Don't be
Sorry,
funny.
we can't bring you on.
Yeah.
Right.
Can't have anything nice around here. I
should
don't
know that by now.
Yeah. OJ, you got anything to throw in there? You're on mute. If you're gonna
I am.
Oh, there you
No,
go.
I am just kind of posting some things on the page and underneath our video in the chat to kind of give folks an idea of what we're discussing and some good tips, more involvement, and keep it going.
Man.
I haven't got anything else. Anyone else? James? Pete?
Nope, I think I'm good.
Oh, that's it, man. Good luck, everybody. Stick with us, and we'll get you. We'll hit on every topic you need to know about getting a gig.
And we're always available to help you guys out.
That's what the page is here for. Don't be afraid to ask at all. Ask. I get these messages at midnight asking, hey, and it's like, dude, just throw it up on the page. You never know what's going to happen. And it's like magic happens. And the responses are overwhelming, typically speaking. And all of a sudden, these floodgates open that weren't open 5 minutes before they text me that stuff. So there's 48,000 people on this page who do care about you and your well-being and your success.
Absolutely.
And that's what this is about. So this is a place where you can lean on the rest of us, and there's no shame in that. That's what the purpose of this is for your success. That being said, invite, don't be a blue falcon. Invite your buddies and their friends, just people that you think can add value to the other vets here. There's a lot of people looking to help us out. So don't overlook that. I need to put that at the beginning of these things before people listen to us for 48 minutes now. Been crazy. Anyway.
All right.
That's all I got to say. Anyone else?
Nope. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank
See
you.
you guys.